Good morning and welcome to today's Talking Cafe. As you can see, you've got double trouble today. You've got Kath and I. We are going to be talking to you about spring and what a day to do it on. We have the most beautiful sunshine out there. It's all warming up. As usual, I'm going to start with a poem all about spring. In the background, we have Vivaldi's Four Seasons, spring playing. So it's all themed around spring. It's time to stop and stand and stare at nature's beauty everywhere. Let us now herald in spring and delight in what this will bring. Look upon with sheer delight nature's creation from overnight, burgeoning flowers opening out, snowdrops crocus without a doubt. White and yellow and of course green, a rainbow of colour yet to be seen. It doesn't matter where they grow, spring puts on a beautiful show. In dark woodlands you will see bluebell shoots beneath the tree. Spring speaks to us of new birth and of secrets hidden deep in the earth. Gambling lambs you may espy in those green fields as you pass by. Spring glory is a subtle show, but tells us that winter will now go. Simple pleasures left for us to find create a soothing imprint on our mind. Of the four seasons, the best is spring, as it heralds in the hope a new year brings. There we go. And I thank my sister Jean for that one, actually. She wrote today's poem.
Oh, thank you, Wendy. Do you know what? That really brightened me, just with the Four Seasons in the background, which always lifts your spirits. You know, that I was just picturing all of those images, which obviously is what poetry is about. It's like a photograph in words, isn't it? And I had all these lovely photographs of spring images, one after the other, just layering up. And it just fills you with such a sense of well-being, doesn't it?
It does. And because I guess we've had such an awful year as well, I think the meaning is so much more this year. The sun coming in, everybody's spirits are now feeling much lifted. We've got news of the changes happening as well. So it's all coming together at the right time, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely. And now the only thing that we are allowed to do is either walk or go to the supermarket. And now these walks are actually going to start being pleasant again. It just makes you feel brilliant, doesn't it?
It does.
One of the things I thought, Wendy and I were chatting about what makes spring special. And one of the things we realised that is going to be different this year, of course, is the fact that any of the sort of spring festivals and things aren't going to be running, anything that causes sort of a gathering of people. And so we thought, gosh, it's really important to actually make sure that we still mark spring, because it's those times of year that you mark, like being able to go away at Easter or Valentine's Day and things like that, that make the year special. And if we haven't got those social events to go to, well, we've just got to make them ourselves, haven't we, Wendy?
So, I totally agree.
So we thought, well, what sort of things can we do to mark spring so that we really feel it's there? And the first one I thought about was actually just doing the opposite of what you'd expect, actually, but lying in bed. Open your curtains, open your window, because guess what? The sun's coming in now. It's not pitch black when you crawl out of your pit in the morning anymore. So just to be able to lie in bed and listen to the birds singing, because their volume is going up, it's warm enough to open your window without it lashing in loads of rain or freezing ice, and just lie and listen to the birds singing.
What's funny is my actual alarm clock starts with birdsong. And with the lighter mornings, in my front, I happen to have some male blackbirds that squabble.
Oh, beautiful.
Yeah. And I think it's my alarm going off because I'm listening to birds. So they're waking me up much earlier now.
Oh, fantastic. I need to do the same with my daughter. I've got a teenage daughter, and by sheer mistake, I bought a pair of blackout curtains for her bedroom. So instead of the light gently diffusing through like it used to, you can go into her room at 10, 11 o'clock in the day and it is pitch black. So every morning when I get up at about 7, I'm out there, I'm opening her curtains, opening her window and saying, come on, Liv, you've got to get back to school next week. Come on.
And she's saying it's still night time, close them. Oh dear, aren't we cruel as parents?
Well, the other thing we were saying about was taking a daily walk, because that's one of the things we can do. And we were talking about maybe making sure that the walk isn't always just for fitness, but it's for well-being. So we're not advocating you stopping and having a coffee with anyone, because that's still not allowed. But just walking slowly, saying hello to people and swapping the time of day at a distance, but also really having a bit of a mindful walk where you're watching all the developments that are outside. So, sort of really reveling in the primroses sitting in the sunny banks and the buds of the cow parsley that are coming up. And soon the ferns are going to be unrolling. I mean, I notice it a lot because being a horse rider, and of course, I ride a native horse who all he thinks about is what is in the hedgerow. So as we're riding along, if I see any cow parsley and it's all young and fresh, you can bet yourself that I'm not the only one who's seen it, and his head is straight down trying to eat it. So I always notice these things quite regularly, but if you're not looking out for it, you may not actually think about it. So it's that, just not marching around getting your heart rate up, but just looking at what's happening.
What I found myself doing more now as I walk the dog. As you say, normally your life is busy, you're walking along and you're organising your day in your head. Because life has slowed down, things are at an easy pace. I've become far more aware of shady areas and sunny areas. Where the sun is hitting, the daffodils are in full bloom. But then there's a little cluster as I walk by. I have this beautiful display of daffs, and then there's a bunch of daffs beside it that doesn't really get the sun, and it's not open yet. So yeah, I am far more mindful, I think, when I do my walks now, because I'm noticing the smaller things. Insects, I've noticed there are more bugs about and things like that. So mindfulness, as you say, it's actually being aware of what is happening around you as well, isn't it?
Actually taking the time. The only problem I have, Wendy, with that is, there's two slight problems I've got, really. And good morning, Barbara, and thank you for chatting to us on chat there. One of the things that I have a real problem is, as soon as I see primroses, my mind instantly triggers back to childhood memories of picking primroses for my mum for Mother's Day, and also Easter. And of course, what comes with Mother's Day and Easter is chocolate. So as I'm walking around, I always think. And then, unfortunately, the other one that happens is, as soon as the cow parsley comes up, and you get those wonderful, in about May, you get the wonderful white frothy hedgerows where the whole hedgerows are covered in froth.
Yes.
I always think of Prosecco. Actually, no, change that. I always think of champagne, darling.
so chocolates and champagne.
It's quite spirit lifting, but it costs you rather a lot. I put a few pounds on come springtime.
So which, as you say, talking of which, it's a bit like hibernation, isn't it? And of course, we now have all those people that have the pet tortoises watching them closely now to see if they're coming out of hibernation. And as you say, all of the little animals that have gone to sleep for the winter will now be waking up. And something interesting to think about, which I hadn't really thought about, is delaying the first cut, which was a bit of good advice I found online, because the bumblebees, their first pollination, their first source of food will be the dandelions and the daisies popping in the grass. And if we go around weed killing them or mowing them all off, then they're, of course, going to have no food.
It's so tempting, well, isn't it, to make your garden look smart? I know I was very tempted, and I could hear other people's lawnmowers going, but I held off because I thought it was still a bit too wet. But actually, saying that, I've got a cherry tree, and it's a proper cherry tree that grows cherries. And it's always a bit touch and go at this time of year as to whether the bees are going to be able to make it before it gets bitten by frost. And thank God this year it's all out. The bees are buzzing around, and I'm going to have cherries.
So yeah, it is, as you say, it's the whole awakening thing is so exciting, isn't it?
But actually, one thing that is quite good when you go on a walk at the moment is it's just about warm enough to stand still for a few minutes without, really wanting to march on and get your head down. But the leaves aren't on the trees yet. So if you can sort of stand on a high bank or something like that, you can see for miles because the trees aren't covering the views yet. So it's a really nice thing to just stand, especially on a clear day, although it's clouding in a bit out there. Don't look,
Yes,
Wendy.
it is. It is.
But if you stand up there and it's a clear day, you can see for miles, which in a few weeks, come April, that's all going to be blocked out by the leaves. So it's quite a nice seasonal thing to do.
Well, this year is the first year we've actually got views to Ham Hill from our garden, because further over, they've actually had to fell some trees. One had fallen over, where I'm assuming where it was so wet, who knows. And as with all the leaves being gone, we've actually got an area now that we can see through. And we were only discussing the other day that we're actually going to be quite sad when all the leaves bud. We can see the colours of the trees changing now. We're actually going to lose that view. And of course, next year they'll all have grown. So we are making the most of that view at the moment.
And it is, I agree with you. We've got the same situation. Our neighbours have cleared a huge amount of trees and lowered the hedges. And I was half tempted to say, well, take my fruit trees down a little bit as well while you're at it. But then I realised the opposite problem is if they've wiped out all those trees, the view at the moment is stunning. We've never had one like it. But come summer, the wind is going to whip off those fields behind us. And it'll be very warm. So I've decided to stay with my fruit trees because they get up to, God, they're really high now, actually. It's a bit naughty because they've grown massive. But actually, we're probably going to need them for the wind, to keep us warm in the garden.
Yes. So talking of gardens, of course, now is the time where everybody's beginning to plan their gardens, isn't it? And work begins to pick up.
And one of the things, I don't know if other people have got this, but if you can find a little spot in your garden that's a sun trap, where the wind doesn't hit yet, so you can kind of hunker down somewhere, you get the full force of that sun, because it is quite warm. The sun's getting quite strong already. But you can get out of the weather or behind glass and feel that sun on your face. It is honestly just beautiful, isn't it?
Yes, I totally agree. We've actually taken to where you've got to sort of get up, and where we've been sat at the desk, going for a stretch those legs and a walk. I've actually been taking my cup of tea down to the garden and sitting. And as you say, you can actually feel the heat in the sun now.
Yeah, the strength is there. Now, Wendy, we're both very lucky. We've got sort of big gardens that face onto fields. So we're both, really appreciate that we've got that. But Wendy, you've been doing loads of work in your garden, and half of the excitement is planning, isn't it? So in the winter, when it's all dark and you can't do anything, I mean, I don't know about you, but I've got a bit of a guilty secret that on Sundays, I quite like getting up early and watching some of the gardening programs they've got on, Monty Don and etc. And
Guilty is charged.
Fills me with excitement. I don't often watch the whole of it because I'm going, I could do this, and I'm writing notes and planning what I'm going to do with my garden, and it just fills you with so much excitement, doesn't it?
Yeah, we have got the garden tidy and manageable at the moment, but it's got to be. We're yet to do it as the project. We're still building the extension. So we will then have completed the renovation and beyond the garden. So yes, we're into, we even watch the garden design programs for ideas to know how to and what to do. And as you say, not everybody is fortunate enough, but of course they can bring the gardens inside, can't they, on the windowsills? And you have things that stick onto windows as well now, don't you? So if you're in a flat, the same with the bird feeders, you can stick them onto the windows so that you can still grow and have your garden there, but it's miniature.
And actually, Wendy, you don't even have to have a garden at all, do you? I mean, as you can see behind me, what I've been up to, and as soon as that's another reason why spring is one of my favourite times, is because you get cheap flowers that you can just adorn your house with. So in the background, you can see I've got my £1 daffodils, and I've got the hyacinths. Now the hyacinths, they're about £1.45, and you get 3 in a pot. And you just bring them on. I tend to cut them and put them in water because they sit them too high in the pots and the flowers just droop. So I've got one set, as you can see, that I've for 145 that I've repotted, and then I've got others that I've just cut and put in their flower in the pot. But as you can see, I've got daffodils and hyacinths there, and the smell is just incredible. And that just sits in my front room and just makes, the scent is wonderful, and it just makes me feel good. And that's all for £2.50.
And the nice thing is, you don't even need vases. If you look on any of the activity sites and craft sites, your jam jars just look amazing, especially with the spring flowers, I think. And you literally soak the labels off them. I'm actually in the throes of doing it, haven't quite finished yet. And you literally bind them together with gardener's twine, and you pop a little array of flowers, and you can do 4 jars or 9 jars, 6 jars. And if you were, once lockdown's out and we start to entertain outside, etc., you can always have them as a table centre, and then as people are leaving, you can give them a little vase of flowers to take away with them.
Oh, and take a little bit of joy home with you. That's a really nice idea. Oh, no, thank you, Andy. I like that. One of the things that we were talking about with gardening, and I have to admit, it was the Tuesday, I think it was Tuesday or Wednesday Talking Cafe. We had the Milton Elm Garden Centre on. I have to admit, I was in that chat because everything they said was like, ooh, ooh, like this, and I was chatting away. Kind of monopolised it, I have to admit. But there was one of the things that they said was, don't clear your garden too quickly. So all of last year's plant growth that you leave, you're supposed to leave it all over the winter, which I have to admit I have done because I thought, yeah, it's good for the insects and the birds. But apparently we need to leave it a little bit longer if we can possibly hold out, because all the insects are inside the tubers. So, yeah, so I'm afraid I have already not cut all mine down, because I've got a little woodland area full of primroses and things. But what I have done is put it. I've got like a not quite a compost heap because it's all the sticks and things, but I put all the sticks to one side, so it becomes almost like a bug hotel. So I'm hoping they're still inside it because they're dead, so they'll just kind of the bugs will still be able to crawl out. That's what I'm hoping.
And as you mentioned bug hotels, and of course that's very popular among the children now. So they can also go to the gardens and have a look to see which bug had buried itself and hibernated is now coming out, and in its new form, and see which ones are empty. So
I remember a couple of times when my daughter was little, because she certainly wouldn't do this now. A couple of things we did was, one, we did some garden beating where we beat until the worms came up, which she thought was absolutely hilarious. But then the other thing we did was we actually found a whole load of, I suppose they were bees. I never actually found out what they were, but they were all coming out of the garden. So they buried themselves in the soil and were all coming out bum first and pulling themselves up out of the soil and popping up and flying off. And I was just fascinated. Liv wasn't so keen because they might have a sting on them, but it was just those sort of things that are so rare to catch and are just wonderful, really, aren't they?
Yes, even more so now because the insect population is diminishing. When you think what was around when we were children.
Oh, absolutely. We used to play
when I took my grandson through to the garden, he'd got a bug box with a magnifying glass and in the lid, so you could get them and pop them in there and have a look. So we went bug hunting, and the most popular bug in our garden is the woodlouse.
Oh yeah. I have to say though, Wendy, I had chickens for the last 3 years. They have all moved on now, passed away, but it did absolutely strip my garden of insect life. And as tempted as I am to get more chickens, because I did love them, they were hilarious and comical, they did strip the garden. They ate the frogs whole and live. They ate slow worms. They ate everything. And so I'm actually
you live and you learn.
All that back. So yeah, so there's no chickens anymore, and I've got the bug hotels and things instead. But Wendy, you had some ideas as well, didn't you, with some other sort of children's activities? That
I did. if people have watched me before, then I've had the children with sock puppets, and we've done the sock face mask with no sewing. So for a nice change, very, very simple and quick to do with the children are flannel animals. So whether you decide you want, sorry, I've just dropped the glue on the floor. And today I've chosen some really, really, let's see if we can see me. Some
good.
Really,
I was going to your screen a bit. I think that looks good. If we can have a thumbs up or a yes or a no, can everyone see what Wendy's up to there?
Can people see what I'm doing? I'm just going to move. I've sort of prepped before.
I know our screens look a bit different, don't they, to other people's? So it's useful.
They do. So here's a little chick, which can be one I made earlier, ready, which you can give to the children at Easter. You can give, the children can make for Mother's Day because they are so simple to make.
Wendy, you're thinking of chocolate again.
Well, the next one you do have a bit of chocolate too. But it is, whoops, I keep just throwing everything on the floor. There we go. We're not doing well at all, are we?
That's all right. I think we had some outdoor activities as well that I think we're going to put in on the chat, because you can look them up online, and there's some lovely activities that that you can click onto, and they've got some brilliant ideas. So while Wendy's making a start, we could possibly get some of those onto the chat. Wendy, guess what? I am useless at doing things. But I'm going to try, but I'm not going to put mine on camera. Well, maybe slightly.
Well, you may do, because it really is that simple to make. You've got your flannel, and you point a corner towards you. That's it. And you literally take the corner, fold it, and you just keep rolling until you get to the other end. Keep it nice and tight if you can. Okay. And you just roll it up to the other end.
Okie dokie. I think it's tight enough.
Leave your little pointy bit, because that's going to become the beak. So put your finger on the point of the beak and fold the flannel in half, thus.
Now, is that with the beak still sitting, the fold on the outside, or do I need to turn it?
I've got the beak at the bottom. So put your finger underneath the beak, as it were, and then fold.
Over your fingers.
That's it. So then you have a little beak. You can already see. Okay. And then literally you bring his wings up. My fold, I'm just going to adjust mine slightly because the beak, and then you literally, so it's a bit like a W.
Oh, mine's not straight. Okay. No, I've got one side bigger than the other.
Well, that's okay. Put your finger, just adjust the beak a little bit. You can even him up.
Hang on. Oh, I'm not sure I can.
And then you get your elastic band, and you literally put an elastic band on it to hold it all nicely into place. And you'll find when you do this, you just play with it a little bit, look, and you can bring the little wings down. There we go.
Oh, you can't see how wonky it is now. That's better.
Okay. There we go. So you have your, now you could leave it just like that if you wanted to, but you can also, she says, looking for where she's put her eyeballs, you get yourself a glue stick or a glue gun, depending whether or not you are into crafting. For today, I'm literally just going to take the end off the glue stick, put the eye on it, and stick an eye, and then stick the other eye very quickly. And hey, presto, you have a chick.
Oh, that is so cute.
Okay, that's how fast it is to make.
Wendy, I was thinking about using my pen, but the only trouble is I couldn't find any flannels this morning. I think my daughter dropped a can of Coke over her cream carpet last night. I wasn't going to go in and clean it up for her. I wanted her to be independent and try and achieve it for herself. So I've gone into the cupboard this morning to get flannels, and there were none left. I think she stripped the whole lot out to clean up the Coke with. So I've now got big
blotting paper. So, and the rabbit.
This is me. This is my normal face flannel, so I'm not going to draw on it.
Right. So And that's how it really is simple. Now, your bunny is exactly the same principle. And you can make, there are 2 types of bunnies. You can literally, again, roll the flannel and do the pointy. But this time, you're going to make the point disappear this time. And you would literally just fold it in half that way. And then you put an elastic band, put the soap in the middle, then another elastic band to make the ears. And that is how you make this one. And as I say, it's really, really simple. Now, to make the other rabbit is start off exactly the same, but instead you're going to bend it in half the other way, okay? And once you've done that, you hold it, and again, you get your elastic band.
You are losing me a little bit now.
So, very simple. I'm going to do it. So you've literally folded it. You then lift up the ears. Okay, this time we lift up the ears. Chocolate can go in this one. Pom-pom, if you want to put a fluffy bunny tail on.
Sweet as that.
Again, we go like so, and we have a tail, she says. Let's make it stick. One tail. Again, I would normally use a glue gun. The same with the eyes. This time I have some larger eyes. Again, we pop on a little bit of glue. And we have a tail, and then any egg will do, about that size. You pop it in, and hey presto, you have an Easter bunny.
I'll tell you what, Wendy, I'm so glad that this is recorded, because it'll be really nice to go back and do this, because I was just thinking like at on Mother's Day or Easter on the napkins for your table as well. You could probably do it out of that, couldn't you?
And you could also, I guess, she says, let's take the soap out, bring that further down, and you can pop your egg in the tummy.
That's so cute.
In fact, there we go, look, chocolate.
Yeah, I love it. I love
it. So, and you saw how fast and how simple they were. So even young children will be able to. You may need to help with the folding, and then you can put little bows around the necks. You can use pipe cleaners. If you haven't got, if you're trying to cover up a very badly matched elastic band. And children do have imagination, so they will transfer that for you into something that they want.
And there are certain stores that charge about £1 for their goodies that will have flannels and paper cleaners and glues and things all at an affordable price, won't they?
Yes. I mean, flannels you can pick up for as little as 50p. If you go online, you can buy, like, as you all know, for Christmas I made the toweling teddies out of tea towels and flannels for everybody. And I just ordered a bulk batch that were really, really quite cheap.
What's the
there we go. So back to spring. So we've sorted out Mother's Day and children's, activity and Easter.
Absolutely. Well, do you know, there was one thing that maybe we should end on, because we're getting to that time anyway. But see, now that you've been talking about chocolate and crafting, and because Easter has always been my most favourite time of year, I get terribly, terribly excited by it. And even now, I'm ancient now and I still get excited by it. So you've put me in such a brilliant mood, but I'm all bouncy like this and kind of, ooh, and I've got to go back to work now. So I'm not, I need to quit. So what I thought would be really nice to finish is just to talk a little bit about a way of deeply relaxing, something that you could do if you've got that window that lets the warm sun in, or perhaps something you could do. Oh, bird food. That was one of the things I was going to say. If you have a bird feeder and some bird food, it is such a brilliant thing to do, isn't it? Because you can just sit and you can, like you were saying about the ones that stick onto your windows, And the peace that I get from sitting and watching the birds on our bird feeder, it's well worth the money of, of putting out bird food. I mean, they get through it like goodness knows what, but it's worth the money because of how relaxing it is. And it keeps the cat out of mischief as well. She sits inside.
And also, it's good to, with the children, you can get them to identify the breeds of birds. And if you don't know it, look it up together. And then, of course, once a year, we have our National Bird Day where everybody ticks what's come in. So, as you say, encourage them, get them in. Let's find out what we as a nation here in Somerset are what our birds are.
Exactly. Although I have to admit, I only get sparrows on mine. I think between the cat and the sparrow team they've kicked everything else off. But they're so entertaining, even if they are sparrows. They're so entertaining. But so now that we're all feeling all jiggy and excited about it, or that's probably the wrong word to use, but never mind. It's going to be quite good to sort of think of something that you can do to help you to deeply relax. So if you are struggling with relaxing, maybe if you're a carer and you've got young children and you've been homeschooling and you just feel absolutely worn out and you can't relax anymore, you've got to that point where you're constantly sort of raring to go because your body's forgotten what relaxation actually feels like. So one of the things I wanted to do this afternoon, although I have to admit I haven't fully prepared it, I was only going to talk about it, so I'm debating whether to just talk about it. But it's to do some square breathing. And
now, I haven't heard of squared breathing, so I'm really intrigued.
Okay, well, you'll find it on loads and loads of the sort of well-being websites. And because I'm not qualified, I probably shouldn't run a session because I'm not supposed to. But really, all it is when you breathe. What you're doing is you're actively bringing in lots of the oxygen, obviously, but the chemicals around you and things. So you're taking them into your lungs and spreading them into your body. So it's like eating. You need to do it to get those nutrients into your body for your body to work. But when you practice deep breathing, it actually slows your heart rate down. And it's one of those things that it forces your heart rate to slow down. So it has to happen. So when you're feeling really uptight, square breathing is one of those ways to slow yourself down again. Obviously, like everything, if your body's been really, really tense for a very, very long time, it's not going to happen instantly, but it is something that with practice becomes easier and easier. And eventually your body goes, oh, relaxation. I remember what that feels like. And once it's hit that, I know what to do to relax that phase, you then start to relax more quickly and you get back to that deep sense of relaxation instead of, and your shoulders come down and you loosen your jaw and start to be able to relax. So essentially, because if you're really, really stressed, your mind goes bouncing off everywhere and can't focus. The idea of the square breathing is that it makes your mind focus. So you would breathe in for a count of, probably start with 5, but the aim would be to get to 10. And when you breathe in, you're not breathing and sucking your tummy in to make yourself thin. You're doing exactly the opposite. You're inflating your lungs. So actually you want your stomach to get bigger. So you take a deep breath in for the count of, so we'll say 5. So we go, I can't do it at the same time. So you count for 5. And as you're counting for that 5, you're imagining going up the left-hand side of a square. So you're counting in for 5. And then the top of the square is actually holding that breath for 5. So you're just literally holding it for 5. And then when you breathe out, again, you want to really exhale. So you want to focus on getting all the stress hormones and all the bad bits out in that breath. So you really focus on a big, deep breath out, pushing it out of your stomach, sucking your stomach in to push as much air out as you can. So as we said, start with 5, aim for 10. And then you wait for 5. So that's your bottom. And then you start again, in for 5. If you can make it 6, if you can make it 7. Visualize going up that square, inflating your lungs, sucking in all that good air. Hold it for 5. Relax, send it back out for 5. And then wait for 5. And if you do about a count of 10, so do it 10 times, and you start to slow your body down. Now, obviously, as Dave is putting out for us on Talking Cafe, you do need to check because obviously if you've got some heart conditions and things like that, it is something that you need to make sure that you are allowed to do. But it's just an idea, and we would advise you to look it up on Google or talk to your GP or someone first, because it is a great thing to do if it's right for you, and it's a lovely way to just spend 5 minutes. It's not even 5 minutes, is it? 2 minutes to get yourself relaxed again.
So there, now that I've learned something new, so hence square breathing, because of the way you are focusing.
Visualizing that, and because you've got to make your brain count and focus on that square, you've got a better chance of stopping it galloping all over the place and thinking of everything. But it's a bit like, I found that when you first start, your brain doesn't want to do it. So it starts seeing things like, oh, look, there's a bit of dirt under that chair. I better pick that up before I start to relax. Or, you know, anything, because it's like work avoidance, isn't it? It's that kind of, oh, better do that first.
It's like when it's the same as when you start with meditating or anything, where you have to focus. If you're not used to doing that kind of well-being, that was one of my most difficult things, was learning how to meditate, because my brain just would not.
It just won't let you do it, will it?
No.
No, absolutely. It's terrible. And that's why the breathing is good, because it does help you to focus a little bit better. I remember the first time I tried meditation, and yeah, it was just, oh, it's horrendous. It really was. I was twitching all over the place. I couldn't sit still. It was like, oh, I've got a pain in my back. I better move that bit. Oh, I better just, it was awful, but I got there in the end.
Well, this morning has been lovely to actually come on with you and actually have a chat. You know, yes, we're colleagues, we work together and we talk professionally, but today almost seems like we're being paid for a coffee break, really, doesn't it? Because yeah, we are chatting and having fun. So let's hope we can do some more of these.
Oh, definitely.
And yeah, no, it's been really, really good. But as you say, we do have to put the work hats back on, and it has been lovely.
Well, hopefully we've given a few things that people can take away from it and try. Sometimes it's things that people know about already, but you just don't think about it, do you? So you know, sometimes if somebody says something, it just triggers off, and you think, oh yeah, I haven't thought of that, or I haven't done that for ages, or, you know, so just having a chat kind of triggers off good things in other people.
Yes. So let's hope, as you say, it's got other people chatting. The children are going to go out there and also appreciate spring. And as you say, on the whole, I think we are now all feeling a lot more uplifted anyway. The sunshine and, you know, the and everything else that's happening around us is all seems to be moving forward nicely now.
Oh, definitely. And thanks, Niall. Thanks for your comment. That's lovely. So I guess we better wave goodbye, and I shall pass over to you, Wendy, to do the end of broadcast, because I have to admit, once in the past I left the studio instead of ending the broadcast, which wasn't so good.
Okay. Thank you to Dave, our wingman, who sits there very quietly assisting us with any comments and looking at your remarks, and pops up any IP addresses for us. Kath and I would like to thank you for watching and look forward to you joining us. Next week, I will be doing the Talking Cafe, and I'm really, really fortunate that we're going to be joined by Lynn Franks, OBE, who will be chatting to us. So that's going to be very interesting. So I'll see you next week, and it just leaves us to say bye-bye.
Brilliant.
Okay. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.